Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and do you want to easily upgrade the halos on your BMW F series to the brand new yellow style? It's really easy to do, and I'm going to show you how. All right, y'all, so let's talk about this project a little before we jump in, because it's going to be really easy and a quick upgrade you can make to your car. Now, if you've seen, for example, the new G82 CSL that has the yellow halos, or the F90 M5 CS that has those yellow halos, and this is something you wanted to do, this is an easy upgrade. All we need to do is replace the circuit boards that actually are driving the LEDs to the halos themselves, to these new yellow LEDs from Mashimarho. Now I'm going to show you how to do this install. It's really simple. It's only going to take a few simple tools. And don't forget, everything you need will be linked in the video description below. So that's the link to these LEDs, any tools you need, and all the rest. All right, so we're going to be using my BMW M2C today as the example, but these instructions are going to be essentially the same on almost all of the F series. Now, my one caution is make sure you get the right boards for your car. So when you check out with Mashimarho, make sure you order the right ones for the right model of car. These fit the 2 series and the M2s in the F series, right? All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to show you how you can get this done. All right, so if you had a chance to see my G80 guide on this, I installed these yellow halos recently into a G82 that looked absolutely fantastic. Now the good news is about the 2 series and the M2 is that it's even easier. We don't have to take the wheel off. Everything you need is beneath this cover, this radiator right here. Now, as you can tell, I've got different bolts on my particular car. If you haven't seen that DIY, make sure to check it out. These are normally 3 T20 screws. So in my case, they're a 5mm Allen because I've replaced them with these dress-up bolts. But you're going to want to take all 3 of these bolts out and then very gently lift this cover. And I'll show you what it looks like because the circuit boards are plugged underneath. All right, so once you have those bolts out, you just gently lift up. And you should be able to see here, you've got 2 pinch release cables. You've got a plug that goes to both circuit boards, okay? So you're just gonna wanna pinch the plugs on both sides to release that clip. There you can see one is loose on one side, and you'll just do the same on the other to just pinch and release, and it should come right off. Okay, so what you wanna do is take both of these off, and then we're gonna walk this over to our bench to get these circuit boards off to get the new ones on. All right, so here we are set up on my workbench. And now that you have this off, basically what you need to do is just get these circuit boards away from the frames themselves. Now, they're held down by glue. I've seen a bunch of different ways to take these off. I've seen people really pry on them, get small screwdrivers underneath, do some crazy stuff like that. But you really don't want to damage these boards also, because if you ever want to switch back, maybe you decide you don't like yellow, or you change your mind, or you want to sell the car, whatever it happens to be, there's no reason to ruin these boards because you could always swap them back. So what I find the easiest way to do it is to actually use the blade of a shop knife and get the shop knife down between the board. You can see it dig in there a little bit, down between the board and the frame itself. Now, this is going to be, you're going to want to be careful about this. You don't want to cut yourself. Obviously, you don't want to apply too much pressure or break the blade, anything else like that. So it's just going to be a matter of just kind of slowly, carefully working its way down. Now, the other thing that may surprise you is this glue is surprisingly strong. So what tends to happen is it'll let go suddenly. So right, you're applying gentle down pressure and kind of prying out just a little bit, and suddenly it'll let go. So be careful you don't cut yourself, be really careful as you do it, but work both of these circuit boards off. There's nothing else holding them on other than the glue. Now, the other thing we're going to want to do is once we get them off, we're going to match them up exactly to the boards that we need. Now, one thing to keep in mind when we look at orientation, and if you wanted, you could even potentially lay the boards out already. Because when you look at it, for example, the small ones, you can tell there's an orientation to the plug and the LEDs themselves. These are the LEDs right here. So the plug has to open on the side with the LEDs in this orientation essentially on the top, right? So make sure you pull out the right boards, match them to this before you cut them off. All right, so I have the double-sided adhesive on and I've cleaned off all the glue residue. Now the nice thing about these is if you also notice that there's little teeth on the circuit board itself. So when you put the board on here, you can see it only sits in one orientation. So you're gonna make sure it's on nice and straight. So I've put the 3M double-sided adhesive on the bottom of both. Now on this one in particular, it's actually only one tooth that fits in. It's on the plug side tooth, and then the board swings around and bumps up square
against the other post. Because if you take it back and you look at the original, and the original still has this little bit of lip of glue on it, so you can see exactly where it went before, right? So you set it in here, and you can see that the bump on this side doesn't line up with this little vein. It's the tip of the board touches. So it's in the groove here and not here. So when I put the new one on, I'm going to put it in the same orientation. I'm going to hold it now nice and square right up against this lead edge and press it in and then press it down. Now on that note as well, I try really hard not to touch the LEDs right here. Not that you're necessarily going to burn them out like it was an incandescent or HID bulb, but any residue off your fingers or any glue or anything else like that could sit as a residue on top of the LED and change the light or make it not quite as bright. So I'm just very careful to try to not touch the LEDs as I go through this whole process. Okay, so I'm just going to take the new boards, peel off the backing, set them into place. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done, and then we're just going to plug it back in, and one side is done. All right, so as you can see, I've got the new boards in place. Looks really, really good. Nice thing about these, the holes also line up as well. Now, in my big board case, my strip of 3M adhesive goes across the holes. So you can't see that it lined up, but I could tell before I put it on. The smaller board here, you can see straight through the holes. So everything is nice and aligned. Now, if you use 3M tape, keep in mind that this has some time for it to adhere fully, so it can be a little bit gummy at first. If you've used epoxy or something else, make sure you give it enough cure time. But when you plug these in, if you plug them in and then yank and pull on them, you could pull the board out of the position it's in if you're not gentle. Okay, so make sure that everything is tacked down really, really well, and then go ahead and plug these in, and then gently just fit it right back into place, and then put the screws back in and you're done. What I'm going to do is, at this point, I'll fire the car up and show you what it looks like on both sides, one with yellow, one with white, but then it's just a repeat of the same job on the other side. All right, guys. Oh man, do I love this. Now, at least on the screen here on my camera, it looks a little bit blown out on the screen, but to my eyes, the yellow is just super sharp and bright. It's just as sharp as the white is, but looks so good. Oh my goodness, y'all, this looks so fantastic. I am so excited about this. All right, so here we are on the left side. We're almost done, but I wanted to show you something very, very important. So I did my initial assembly. I took the OEM boards off and I put the new ones on. I tested them before I slid this back into place. Everything worked. That was great. I slid the assembly down in, screwed it down, tested it, and my DRLs were off. How weird. Take it all back apart again, check all my wiring, check my plugs, everything seems to be right, and it still didn't work, and I couldn't figure out why. So, after spending a really considerable amount of time, and this is now a spare left board, I found the problem. Now, it's really hard to see on camera up in this corner, and as you can tell, this board sits in this orientation when it slides back down into the headlight. If you look up in this corner, there are two silver contact patches right there, and super small right there, or should be there, is a resistor. And it looks just like the little ones right here in the middle of the board. If you notice, it's gone. And I'll show you the problem. The problem right here is the actual light guide itself. This is the plastic light tunnel that's getting lit up by the LED itself. So when you look at this, unless you're really careful, and you see the resistor right there on this board. When you slide this in, if you don't slide it down straight, you slide it in an angle, you'll scrape this down the light track, and this will snap the resistor right off. Super easy to do. You won't even feel that you did it, and then these boards won't work. The little board won't light up, even though it's still good, when the big board is missing that resistor. So, at that point, you're looking at, you're gonna have to buy another kit. You're gonna have to figure out what you need to do when it's a really easily avoidable issue. So when you put these in, you really need to make sure, if you notice, you look really closely, you don't wanna scrape it down that. You have to make sure that I almost tip it backwards when I put it in to get that board away from that light track, just like that. And now it sets down in really, really nicely. Now, the passenger side, or the right side, I mean, for whatever reason, it didn't have that same challenge. Part of it is probably because the board sits in the opposite orientation, but just be really careful. So I'd be careful on both sides, but this side has that resistor that is vulnerable to being scraped off. And if you scrape it off, I mean, that's not a warranty issue. You just broke it, right? So be very, very careful. This is an easy install, something you can absolutely do yourself, but just make sure that you don't buy yourself any trouble by scraping off that resistor like I did.
Okay, now it's all installed, ready to go. Let me show you what it looks like. All right, and of course on the day I want to show you in this DIY, it's a bright sunny day. They're gonna look even more dramatic at night. As you can tell, these look really, really good. I love this yellow. This is gonna be absolutely fantastic. I am super excited about this. And you can tell they're even bright during the day. So I mean, they're just as bright as your white OEM DRLs, but this CSL, M5 CS yellow. So absolutely fantastic. Go ahead and clean up, put your tools away. You're all done. All right, y'all, so go ahead and clean up and put your tools away. And you can tell this is not a hard project to do whatsoever. Definitely add your car into that kind of that CSL, M5 CS look, which I love so much. And add a little bit of your own individuality to your car. Now you can tell this takes only a few simple tools and a little bit of time. And again, make sure to be careful, especially careful with that driver's side board. It can really be sensitive. Thank you so much to Mashimarho. It's been absolutely great to collaborate with them and make this project because I wanted to show you how you could do this yourself. Now, please click like and subscribe and the little alarm bell. It makes a huge difference to my channel, and I have a ton of content I cannot wait to bring you. It's going to be an amazing year, and I'll see you on my next project.